I heard that I'm going to give you the oral transmission.
Ganglam choksam gewaksam jongwa tundam zigbar namgi yernyeto hukum choksum bondi rig tamchit zigbar namgi yer deyang namji korum jener gi jevji yin samma kyav tagdan nyomo dan tagdan shir gunni nyomo mettag shir number yewa mechu shir hundred number marto shir.
Now, let's continue with our classes on Uttara Tantra Shastra. In fact, before the actual class, I would like to first address a few things. First and foremost, I would like to address the importance of listening to such a supreme Dharma. Of course, to have faith towards the Dharma, the Sangha, and the Buddha, as well as the Lama who's teaching. In fact, this is quite important to cultivate such faith while studying. I, by chance, received this recording of Jigme Phuntsog Rinpoche's teaching, and during which Phuntsog Rinpoche then gave the teaching on the teaching of non-retrogress faith towards the three jewels. I think next week I'm going to give one teaching on that particular teaching that was given by Phuntsog Rinpoche. I'm not going to play the video during the class, but I will then give a short teaching of the Phuntsog Rinpoche's teaching, and then later on you will study on your own time. I think together the teaching of Phuntsog Rinpoche as well as the English translation takes about 100 minutes in total. I think you have 100 minutes in your a week of time. if you can't finish listening to the Ponsok Rinpoche's 100 minutes of video teaching, then I suggest you not. In fact, you cannot attend my class on next Wednesday. Next Monday and Tuesday, we'll have Vimalakirti Sutra, and on Wednesday, I will give teaching on the teaching given by Ponsok Rinpoche. I'll give a short explanation of that teaching, and then I think on Wednesday it is July 31st, and between July 31st to August 7th, I hope that everyone could either read or finish watching the entire video that has the content of the teaching of Ponsok Rinpoche. If you cannot finish, I hope that you could study it. The translation of that video, in fact, the language that's used in that video was Ponsok Rinpoche gave teaching in Tibetan language, and then it was consecutively translated into English. So together, it took about 100 minutes. I think this is quite a great timing, a very auspicious timing, because just at the time that we finished the teaching of the chapter on the three jewels of Tathagata, and then the translation of that text is available as well as the video. So I really hope that you could then read into it, including the Sangha members over here in Larunga, as well as the ones who are in other places around the world. I hope that you vow to finish watching this video or read the text of that teaching by Ponsok Rinpoche. And then if you can finish that within 1 week, then you can take my class. You can listen to my class on Wednesday. I really think that in order to generate a long-term devotion towards the three jewels and have that long-term opportunity to study the Dharma, you really need lots of merits. Without merits, even if you are really good at other aspects in life, you probably won't be able to stay and listen and contemplate and practice the Dharma. They made a short clip, so I'll give you a short clip as the teaser of our class for Wednesday, as well as for the video recording of Ponsok Rinpoche's teaching. The video clip was the teaser. And this video recording was taken back in 1993, which was 26 years ago. That was the first time that he went to the West, to Canada, which included a few really precious video teachings, video recordings of the teachings by Phuntsok Rinpoche. And I really think that this is quite timely. Especially now we finished the studying of the jewel of Dharma and Buddha and Sangha. So in this teaching, Phuntsok Rinpoche gave the similar teaching of why it is important, and I think it's quite auspicious. Anyhow, my class will be on Wednesday to give a preview or a short introduction of it, and then Thursday and Friday we'll have the Uttara Tantra Shastra class. During our Kshitigarbha Dharma Assembly, we will continue with our class. I think since we just resumed our class, I'm not going to stop my class. So my class is at the same timing. I'm not going to take a break from then. I really think that we have to attach great importance to listening to the Dharma teaching, because once you interrupt from the teaching, then it could create lots of obstacles for you for your this lifetime as well as for your next lifetimes. I understand that there are currently nowadays many empowerments or other kind of teachings, but if you run around and if you then interrupt your study and then go around to listen to those teachings or receive empowerments, I don't think it's very good for your next lifetime by interrupting your teachings. I, in fact, relied up on Phuntsok Rinpoche for 19-20 years, and during which I one-heartedly and wholehearther, in fact, rely upon Phuntsok Rinpoche. Of course, I had a great faith towards other teachers, but I've never really interrupted my study to see them. I had a great devotion towards another Khenpo or Lama Chochek, but I never really interrupted my study to see him. I never really went to see him in person. There are people who then went and rely upon many teachers. Of course, if you have a pure devotion towards many people, towards all the teachers, then that's fine. But if you have wrong views, it's probably not a good idea to rely upon many teachers. There are great teachers who then manifest in forms such as a butcher or even animals, as we've studied before. So if you want to rely upon good teacher, then you can rely upon good teacher in any way you want. But from a different aspect, I really think that studying is really the most important at this stage. Now let's continue the studying from yesterday. Yesterday, we've already finished the studying on the first three Vajra points. Today's teaching is actually on the next four Vajra points. Whatever Vajra point that you're listening to, this is in fact quite important and it has lots of merit. There's a chapter that talks about the merits of listening to the Uttara Tantra Shastra. And if you have great devotion, then whatever teaching you're listening to, it generates a great merit to you. In the Sutra of the Heap of Jewels, it says that to Tathagata's holy doctrines, listen with sincere reverence. By virtue of such reverence towards the Dharma, one would soon attain the great Bodhi. If we don't have such reverence, if we listen to the Dharma with wrong views, then it's just like what Venerable Tapowa said. If the practitioner do not abide with the Dharma and practice the Dharma, then Dharma cannot liberate you, yet it could then drag you down to the three lower realms. So we have to practice according to the Dharma, otherwise it won't bring you any benefits. If you have great devotion, then even if as we learned the story of how an old lady, just by relying and paid true reverence towards the tooth of a dog, he attained Bodhi. So reverence and devotion is really important. As what we just said, we should then use a joyful mind, mind of reverence, and mind of certainty to listen to the Dharma. Then the change that it will cause you in your mind stream is completely, it's really incredible. But if you only listen with doubts, listen to the Dharma with doubts, with the kind of mind that does not feel joyful, then you will not receive such benefit. Before the actual teaching, great masters usually would give teachings of how to listen to the Dharma and what should be eradicated in terms of your mindset when listening to the Dharma. This is quite important. This is the ways of listening to the Dharma. So now let's talk about the last 4 Vajra points. And now it talks about the general description and then the explanation of each of 4 points, as well as the characteristics of each of those and the merits. So it talks about the 4 aspects. The first one talks about the general explanation. The general explanation of the 4 points. This categorization of such, in fact, is then according to Patrul Rinpoche's stanza, and Taranatha then wrote, Sherab Gyaltso then composed the commentary based on his stanzas. The first one says that the thorough explanation of why these 4, which is the element, enlightenment, quality, and activity, these 4 points are the realization of the Buddha or the noble ones. Over here, the noble one is the greatest noble one, that is the Buddha. So why these 4 are the realization or the understanding from the Buddha, not the Shravakas or Patika Buddhas. Over here it says that the virtuous 3 jewels which are rare and sublime arise from suchness bound up with pollution, from one free from pollution. The one that arises from suchness bound up with pollution, that is the Buddha nature, Tathagarbha, and from one free from pollution, that is then the Dharmakaya, from the qualities of unpolluted Buddhahood and from the deeds of the victor. This is the object of those who see the ultimate truth. From these 4, then the 3 jewels are given rise of. So over here it talks about these four are the object of the greatest noble one, which is the Buddha, not the object of the mundane ones. Through simple language, these four Vajra points give rise to the previous three Vajra points, and this is the cause and the fruition. So the later four gave rise to the previous three. This is the connection. According to Asanga's commentary, that's what he talked about. There's a translation from a Wei dynasty, from the later Wei dynasty. In that version of translation, in fact, the cause and fruition is very clearly stated. The later four that talks about in this stanza, that is then the element or the Buddha nature and the enlightenment, the bodhi and the quality, as well as the activities, these four. First one, that is the polluted suchness, and that is then element or Buddha nature. And it says that the suchness is not freed from the covering of the mental poisons. In that phase, it is called the Tadagatagarbha. This is suchness bound up with pollution. And it is still then bound up with the mental poisons, with the afflictions, the obscurations of afflictions and habitual patterns. And after the path, then in the face of the level of Buddhahood, this Dharmadhatu, or this element, is called the Dharmakaya of the Tathagata. The level of a Buddha is characterized by complete change of transformation of state. In that, through cultivating the path, this Tathagata has become free from all adventitious defilements up to their very end. And then this is suchness free from pollution. What is linked with this Dharmakaya is the Buddha properties or the merits. And over here, the properties is linked with the 10 powers for fearlessness, 18 uncommon practices, and the fruition of devoid of defilement or fetters. And this is the 32 of them. And then the 32 characteristics of the Buddha. So the 32 characteristics are the form, bodies, fruition of maturation and fruition. That is the specific characteristics of the Buddha, of the enlightenment, the very specific to the Buddha. This is quite important to remember these terminologies, because if you do not remember these terminologies, then what's the point of studying? Even some of the terminologies cannot remember such as terms as refuge or Tathagata-garbha and Buddha nature and so on. If you do not remember all these terminologies, how can you call yourself Buddhist? Next one is the fourth one. The fourth Vajra point is through the power of these qualities, there is unsurpassable activity accomplishing the benefits of sentient beings spontaneously and uninterruptedly. So with the power of these qualities that we talked about, such as the 10 powers and the 4 fearlessness and so on, then there is the unsurpassable activity accomplishing the benefit of sentient beings. I think you probably know the activities of Buddhists, of the Buddha. In fact, what is the main activity of Buddhists? That is to benefit others. So the Buddha's main activity is to benefit sentient beings. So through the merits of the Buddha, then he spontaneously and uninterruptedly benefiting innumerable sentient beings. The previous 4 are called the cause and conditions. The 4 points constitute the cause and conditions for the arising of the fruits. And out of this, then the virtuous 3 jewels. So maybe you are wondering why you have to depend on these 4 points to have the 3 jewels. Shouldn't it be the other way around? In fact, that's not true. In fact, we have to then first have the element that is the Buddha nature, and then after practice, then you will be enlightened, and then you will have all the merits or the qualities, and then you'll be able to perform the beneficial activities to help all the sentient beings. The Shravakas and Pradika Buddhas, they can benefit sentient beings, but not ultimately. The only one who's able to benefit sentient beings ultimately is the Buddha. So it is only through all these 4 then all the 3 jewels can be manifested. At first, you have to then perform all these activities, and then there's the Buddha, then there's the Dharma, there's the Sangha. So you have all the 3 jewels. You have the manifestation of all the 3 jewels. So this is why that there is the 4 Vajra points first, and then the 3 Vajra points. Only the Buddha, who is all perfect, can perform such activity. For those of you who are listening to and listening and studying to this Shastra, then I really think it's quite important to study this profound teaching. In fact, this is not that difficult. This is the basic teachings, theories that all Buddhists should understand. If you do not understand the Dharmakaya, Nirmanakaya, the Buddha nature, then how can you call you Buddhists? So do you understand this stanza by now? Yes? Who understood this? Oh, you? Okay, so you can give the oral presentation afterwards, during the after-class presentation period of time. So, the next stanza is explanation that they are inconceivable. The 4 Vajra points are inconceivable. Why? It says that the disposition of the 3 rare and sublime ones in object of vision of those who see everything. Furthermore, these 4 aspects in the given order are inconceivable for the following 4 reasons. So over here it talks about the given of the elements or seed or Buddha nature. The family name or the element.
见一切法的啊，就是也就是说是见一切万法的就是见一切万法的这个意义是谁呢？就是
Who is the one that could see all phenomena? Who is the one who could see the truth of all phenomena? In fact, that is the Buddha. So this one basically explains the last two stanzas, or very similar to it. It says that the disposition or the characteristic of the three rare and sublime ones is the object of vision of those who see everything. So that's the one who can be seen by the three rare and sublime ones. The four These four aspects are the element, enlightenment, quality, and activity, or it could be called the Buddha nature, bodhi, merits, and activity. So this is taught in the given order, and this given order are inconceivable. These four reasons are inconceivable because this is the realization of the Buddha, not the Shravakas or Pratika Buddha or the mundane beings. And the next one explains why they're inconceivable in an extensive way. What are the four reasons? The next one talks about the inconceivable aspect of it. And in fact, many people said that since they started studying the Uttara Tantra Shastra, they felt that they don't understand anything. In fact, the Uttara Tantra Shastra is very difficult. It's not very difficult to understand compared to the 6th chapter of Abhidharma or the clarity of realization, as well as the commentary of it, and the different reasons of Prasangika school. Once you listen to that, then you probably even get more confused. So compared to those kind of teachings, in fact, Uttara Tantra Shastra is not that difficult. Over here, it talks about these four are not conceivable by the mundane beings or Shravakas and Pratikas. The first one says the Buddha element is pure and yet has affliction. Enlightenment was not afflicted and yet is purified. Qualities are totally invisible and yet unapparent, and activity is spontaneous and yet without any thought. The first one talks about the Buddha element or Buddha nature is pure and yet has affliction. Everyone has this Buddha nature and is already pure. However, it is then contaminated by afflictions. In fact, the nature is pure. How could it be defiled? How could it has both? How can it has such then contradictory properties? Then this is quite inconceivable. In fact, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas cannot understand. No, don't even mention about us who are mundane beings. Therefore, mundane beings as well as Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, they feel that this statement is quite inconceivable. In Srimala Sutra, it also says that the nature is illuminous, that is difficult to enlighten, and the afflictions are also then pure, that is difficult to understand, that is inconceivable. So our nature is already pure, but it is then shrouded by afflictions. Just as the sky is all clear, but out of nowhere the clouds would start together. In lots of the Mahayana sutras, they talk quite a bit about it, as well as in the Tathagata Sutra, it says that all beings through dwell in realms of samsara with all sorts of afflictions, possess the Tathagata that is eternally unsullied and replete with virtues, no different from my own. The Tathagata Sutra is one of the most important root text sutra. From the surface, it seems that all sentient beings are Buddha, naturally, but how could the Buddha have afflictions or shrouded by defilements? In fact, the teaching says that it is not controversial, it is not then in paradox at all, it's not contradicting to each other at all. The next one then says that the enlightenment was not afflicted and yet is purified. Enlightenment does not have any defilement on it at all. But this kind of bodhi or enlightenment is not it's not the fruition of no cause and no conditions. You can only attain it out of a long period of time of purifying and practice on the path. It seems that if enlightenment is already pure and is already not shrouded by defilement, then why do we have to still practice along the path? So this could sound like quite a contradictory statement. In fact, enlightenment is pure, but there are defilements, just like gold is pure, but it could then get defiled. Once you cleanse the defilement, then you'll be able to reveal the gold inside. The next one talks about the qualities. The 5 qualities of the Buddha. When mundane beings, in fact, the mundane beings have already who is bound up with afflictions, they already have this, all these qualities, but they are completely indivisible. They are completely indivisible during the phase of ordinary beings who is bound up with affliction. On the other hand, these qualities do not become apparent since their power does not unfold until Buddhahood. On the surface, it seems that it's quite of a paradox, but it is not in contradictory at all. In Asanga's commentary, he quoted Avatamsaka Sutra. He said that there is a great scripture. It contains all the knowledge of 3,000-fold world. But this great scripture is then concealed in a speck of dust that is really small and no one can perceive by their eyes. But if you use wisdom to break the shell of this small speck of dust, then the great scripture will then reveal itself and unravel from this small speck of the dust. Through this metaphor, we can see that all sentient beings are already defiled by our ignorance. We cannot see all the merits and qualities that is already indivisible within us. But just like nowadays with the technology, in a very small chip, it could contain lots of data, but you're not able to see all the data within it if you do not use the correct technology, isn't it? But once you use it correctly, once you open it correctly, then you'll be able to see all the information, all the data hidden inside. So all the qualities are all condensed into a small speck of dust, so to speak, and it is hidden in your Buddha nature. And all the ordinary beings may appear to be the ones who are really defiled with lots of afflictions. In Avatamsaka Sutra, this metaphor talks about the undefiled qualities are already indivisible during the phase of an ordinary being. But these qualities do not become apparent since their power does not unfold until Buddhahood is reached. For this reason, this meaning of qualities is inconceivable. It does not unfold. This kind of qualities do not unfold itself right away. But you have this quality that is indivisible from you, and this statement is not contradictory. The next one talks about the activity of a Buddha fulfills the wishes and hopes of disciples in correspondence to their respective karmic fortunes. The Buddha, in fact, is not deliberately making an effort to benefit sentient beings. The Buddha spontaneously and uninterruptedly benefits sentient beings, just as the Buddha would manifest the way that sentient beings would be able to receive the Dharma, just as if the sentient being, a particular sentient being, enjoys listening to class, then the Buddha would manifest himself into the teaching or manifest into the numinous penetration if the person is very much drawn to that aspect of teaching. But the Buddha, on the other hand, did not deliberately to tailor the teaching to specific individuals. In fact, the Buddha spontaneously accomplished such kind of effort to such kind of activities to benefit sentient beings. The Buddha doesn't have any intention or doesn't have any deliberate effort to make such differentiation in order to tailor the needs of sentient beings. Rather, it is spontaneous. The Buddha does not have such thinking that, oh, this group of people are ready, then I'll teach them Dharma. That group is not ready, therefore I won't. That's not how the Buddha taught or benefits sentient beings. In the sutra taught by the Buddha and Nirgrantha, it says that working with all sentient beings, I regard them impartially due to their varied capacities. I offer them different teachings. Because of the sentient beings have different capacities and are matured differently, therefore, the way that they receive the teaching and the amount that they receive the teaching are different. But the Buddha doesn't differentiate between how much effort he makes or how much he would offer to the sentient beings. The Buddha The Buddha does not differentiate, does not make any deliberate effort. The kind of disciple, the kind of sentient beings who have the capacity of great capacity in devotion, then they will be able to receive greater Dharma. And let's just then think of let's just think of the cousin of the Buddha. He relied upon the Buddha for 24 years, but he did not see any of the merits from the Buddha. Rather, he thought that I have not much of a difference from you. And for such kind of being who had stayed with the Buddha for such a long period of time, did not receive any of the benefits, only because of his own capacity. But from the aspect of the activity of the Buddha, in fact, his teaching is spontaneous and uninterrupted. According to the Dharani Raja Sutra, it also talks about different activities taught, different activities of the Buddha. And the activities of the Buddha are inconceivable. The merits of a Buddha is not conceivable. The qualities of the Buddha is not conceivable. The Sangha's merits are inconceivable, and to these inconceivables, if you could give rise to devotion, then the merits are inconceivable. The next one talks about the cause and conditions of such four characteristics, or the talking about the cause and conditions for these 4 points. Constituting what must be realized, the realization is realization is attributes and the means to bring it about. Accordingly, the first is the cause to be purified, and the later 3 points are conditions. What is the cause and what is the condition? During the ornaments of the Mahayana Shastra, it has great logics inside. For those of you who do not have deep faith, firm faith to the Dharma, I think it's quite important to study such kind of Shastras. Then you'll be able to see how very logical Dharma Buddhism is. For those of you who feel that Buddhism is so easy, then I would suggest you to study the logics of Buddhism. We're not talking about Madhyamika or emptiness. Even if you just study this text or the adornment to the Mahayana Sutra Shastra, then you'll be able to understand that even the 3 jewels are not that easy, are not that simple. Over here, the first one talks about the one that must be realized. That to be realized is the Buddha nature or the element. From the nature of it is that it is to be purified, and from the aspect of enlightenment, then it is that to be realized. The next one then talks about the nature of enlightenment, which is Bodhi. The nature of Buddha nature is Bodhi. And what is the merit? The merit then is its attributes. After attaining Bodhi, then the attributes, that is the merits, such as the merits of the fruition of being free from all the fetters and fruition of maturation, then will naturally manifest. The next one is bring about realization to sentient beings, that is the activities. To the ones who are practicing, you're probably just visualizing enlightenment as something that once you attain enlightenment, you just enjoy a really peaceful and happy life. That's not true. Sometimes I worry that not many people would listen to Uttara Tantra Shastra because it's a bit difficult. People would rather listen to some very practical advices and practical teachings, then you can use it onto your personal life and relieve your tension and your afflictions. When it's not that practical to use, you won't listen to it. But this is not true. You have to understand where you're going first. Therefore, Uttara Tantra Shastra is really important to listen to. So over here, this stanza talks about the causes and conditions. The first one, that to be realized, which is Buddha nature, that is the cause. And then the next three, which is Bodhi and attributes as well as the activities, these are the conditions that could then give rise to the three jewels, to the three larger points. And the next one talks about short explanation of the meaning of the element, and then talks about the meaning and the merits and the activities. And over here, this part then give this summary of the next 4 chapters. So the first chapter that we're going to learn is the element or the Buddha nature. Second one is the enlightenment, the nature of Bodhi, or nature of Buddha nature. And then the third chapter is on the attributes, which is the merit, and the fourth one is on the activity. You should know this very clearly, otherwise you won't understand the framework, the basic framework of this whole Shastra. During our after-class presentation and discussion group, I noticed that some of the group leaders, they were very active, and then they were actively asking questions. I really hope that this kind of active questioning and answering could be this kind of method could be adapted so that people could really receive benefits from the after-class discussion. This part, we are now entering into the first chapter, which is then the chapter of Buddha nature. It says that the perfect Buddhakaya is all-embracing, suchness cannot be differentiated, and all beings that have the disposition, thus they always have Buddha nature. In the Lion's Roar of Tathagata Shastra by Mipa Rinpoche, he explained the Buddha nature. In fact, other people had explained Buddha nature before as well, but according to Mipa Rinpoche, the way he explained Buddha nature is very different and very prominent. And I've studied it many years ago, but I still can vaguely remember the teaching of it. And in this Shastra, he used this stanza to explain, and rather he extensively explained Buddha nature according to this stanza. The first over here, these 4 verses or 4 sentences talked about the 3 analytical reasoning. The first one is the first verse or first sentence talks about the principle of dependency that talks in terms of creation, and the second sentence talks about the nature of phenomena, and then the third one talks about the principle of causal efficiency. Because the first one talks about from the creation aspect to the cause aspect. If the Buddha could then attain Buddhahood or the Buddhakaya, then it must have a cause. So from the creation, we'll be able to then see that there is a cause, and the cause is a Buddha nature. The first, so this kind of reasoning is principle of dependency. The second one talks about the suchness cannot be differentiated, and all beings have this disposition. So this kind of suchness had never departed. And this reasoning that is used over here is the nature of phenomena, just as the nature of things is never separated from the phenomena itself, just like water has the nature of moisture. So all sentient beings then has the nature of Buddha, or Buddha nature. This talks about the nature from the nature aspect. And then the third one talks about the cause, which is the seed of being enlightened. From the biography of Buddha, we'll be able to see that the Buddha, during his causal stage, either let him be a prince or being whomsoever, he had that seed of Buddha nature, and because of that, then he attained enlightenment. So this one is called principle of cause. And due to this cause, you'll be able to have the fruition. Through these 3 analytical reasoning, we'll be able to see that all sentient beings has Buddha nature. And through Buddha nature, you'll be able to attain enlightenment. This is very reasonable. According to the mind mirror, it says that all sentient beings has Buddha nature. They had, he then gives 3 reasonings. And the first one is all sentient beings possess the Buddha nature. There are 3 reasons. First, the Dharmakaya of a perfect Buddha pervades the mind of all sentient beings. And second reasoning is that with regard to suchness, there is not the slightest differentiation among all sentient beings. And the third reason is that all sentient beings equally possess the disposition of the Tathagata. So that is according to the Zen master of Yunming. He gives these 3 reasons as well. So each and every of the sentient beings has Buddha nature. This is not only analytical reasoning. In our own practice, we should be able to see, we should be able to understand that everyone has Buddha nature through the creation aspect, the nature aspect, and the cause aspect. And this stanza is extremely important. Therefore, I really hope that you could memorize this particular stanza. This is it's quite important to remember the scriptural teachings and to be able to memorize it. In the Great Perfection of Manjushri, it says that we are constantly with the Bodhi, but without knowing it. There's a great master in mainland. His name is Fodashi, and he said that each night one embraces the Buddha while sleeping, and each morning one gets up again with him. We're often with the nature of mind, with the Buddha nature. If we know this, then we'll be able to review or see such Buddha nature very simply, very easily. But most of the time, we don't understand, we don't see it. And because the nature has the capacity, has this function to be able to give birth to enlightenment, just as the seed has the potential to give birth to flowering and budding, then you'll be able to get enlightened because you have such nature. In the praise of Dharmadhatu, it says that if this element exists, through our work, we'll see the purest of all gold. Without this element, despite our toil, nothing but misery will produce. Similarly, because sentient beings has Buddha nature, we practice, we then practice virtuous deeds, we engage in Dharma practice, and then our Buddha nature, our enlightenment will then manifest. Without such Buddha nature, then how could sentient beings get enlightened? Just as if there is gold mine in the mountain, then you can dig and then you'll be able to get gold. But if there's no gold in this mountain, doesn't matter how much you dig, you won't be able to get gold. I often think to myself that there are people who are not that sharp per se, but as long as they continuously to persevere and study and practice, then they will progress along the path. Even animals, if you continue to train them, then some kind of insight or some kind of changes in behavior will occur on the animal. Some scientists, I think majority of scientists, they don't understand why sentient beings could progress. People only find reasons from the aspect of DNAs and all these kind of reasonings, but they don't understand from the aspect of previous and past lives. If they can study the stanza, this particular stanza, I hope that everyone could memorize it. And by next class, I will test on those of you who give oral presentations and then give the oral presentation without looking at this book. Next one. All the sentient beings are already Buddhas, but because they are concealed by the adventitious stains, when their stains are purified, their Buddhahood is revealed. This is according to the Hivajra Tantra. And then the next one is rather, I'm going to be very short on this one. That is The Buddha has said that all beings have Buddha nature, since Buddha wisdom is always present within the assembly of beings, since the undefiled nature is free from duality, and since the disposition to Buddhahood has been named after its fruit. In fact, in some commentary scriptures, these lines do not appear, and in some of the texts, they are then combined together, or rather placed in a different part of this text. So maybe it's because of the translation. Maybe this is rather a long explanation than a stanza. But in the commentary, in the Tibetan commentary, there is no commentary to this stanza. But the meaning is very similar and connected to the previous stanza. The first one says that the Buddha's nature is in all sentient beings. And then the second stanza says that the nature is not defiled, and it is not true with all the sentient beings. The third one says the seed of Buddha, or the Buddha nature, once it gets slowly matured, you'll be able to, it will then be able to review its fruition. All sentient beings has Buddha nature. In fact, within Uttara Tantra Shastra, there are many commentaries on this particular Shastra. There are the ones which gives a little bit different commentary, a different explanation, but the majority of them are very similar. So over here it just says that through different analytical reasoning or through devotion, you can understand it. Later on, in the later part, it also talks about you can understand it through your devotion. You can call it Buddha nature, you can call it defiled suchness, you can call it the Dharma Dhatu, or the element, or the Dhatu, or element. Many masters, in their ultimate reverence praise at the beginning of any shastras they compose, they would say that prostrate to Buddha nature, to the mind. They would then prostrate or pay reverence to the mind. This is in fact of quite high of realization. In lots of sutras, it also has something similar. It says that I bow to Tathagata, which is untainted and inconceivable. May it bless those in the future, so that no one will doubt this Dharma door. This is from the Suragama Sutra. If we prostrate and supplicate to Tathagata or to the elements, prostrate to such untainted, and ask it to bless you so that you won't tread the heterodox path and you won't get astray from the path. And that's why I would encourage you to not give up, even though it is a bit difficult to understand. This Uttara Tantra Shastra is very similar to the tantric teachings, and there are teachers who would first give empowerments before giving teachings to this particular Shastra. So by studying this, it could help you to stay on the right path and not get astray from the path. It could give you blessings and give you all the cities, the fruition, and give you blessings. So you could supplicate in the same way. You supplicate to the illuminous, empty wisdom, illuminous, empty mind, and then in the under the power of truth of cause and conditions, is supplicate in such a way and supplicate and ask to the Tathagata to give you blessing so that you continue to be on the right path and not give up in this lifetime and lifetimes to come, and use this teaching to benefit the sentient beings. Unlike some people only wish for happy life, joyful life, and enjoy all the eating and all the materialistic lives in this samsara, this is not the right way of This is not the right aspiration of studying this shastra. So by the truthful by the truth of cause and condition, then ask the bodhisattvas and ask for the Tathagata to give you blessing so that you'll be able to benefit. Whatever you wish for, the good and the bad will all become true. So you should make a good aspiration, and we'll stop here today.